Welcome back to Ask SAR. This week's question is, what is genderqueer? So I got asked a question about, on the spectrum, on the long spectrum of gender identities, what is genderqueer? And I thought, how would I answer that question? So the first thing that came to mind is that, it's the wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey gender stuff. Well, okay, so that's not a great answer. So let's be a little bit more specific. Genderqueer is one of many possible personal identities that fall along the larger gender spectrum, right? We can talk about gender, we talked about gender in a previous episode, but we can talk about gender in a lot of different ways, and being genderqueer is just one of those possibilities along the way, right? It can be along the spectrum, and it can be sort of the satellite that orbits around or above the spectrum that's not quite connected but still a part of. As you might guess, being genderqueer is not a really specific thing, and that's because it's personal, right? Being genderqueer, having a gender identity, is about a person's personal identity. It's very central to who they are, and so there's no easy way to define it except by how each individual person defines it for themselves. So I got asked a number of other questions around genderqueer, and I thought I would try to answer some of those as well. One of them was, is being genderqueer and transgendered the same thing? Answer is no. Being genderqueer and transgender, there can be some overlap, but for the most part, these are two separate identities, the different ways of people think about themselves. Now, one can be genderqueer and transsexual. Again, two different things, right? Talking about sex and gender, different. Another question I got asked, which is, how do I know if someone is genderqueer? That's a really hard one. It's somebody saying, well, how do I define somebody else? And the answer is you can't, right? You can't look at someone and know if they're genderqueer. So how do you know? Well, you wait for them to tell you. People who have an identity, whatever identity it is, it's theirs to tell you if they choose to. We don't go around on the street and we say, are you homosexual? Or are you Buddhist? Are you Christian? We don't do that because that's a person's identity. It's theirs to share if they want to. Being genderqueer or being anywhere along the gender spectrum is theirs to share. If you really feel like you need to know if this is someone you're close to and you have a suspicion, or someone you're getting involved with and it's important for you to know, then ask. But ask an open and honest, genuine question, right? And if they say, I'm not comfortable sharing that, or I'm not ready to share that yet, then respect that no, right? Respect that boundary and go, okay, I was curious, but if you don't want to share it with me, that's fine. If someone is genderqueer, does that also mean they're gay or lesbian or bisexual? Does genderqueer define someone's sexual orientation? And the answer to that one is also no, right? Gender identity and sexual orientation are two different spectrums, right? Gender identity, sexual orientation. Someone can be anywhere along either one at the same time. So being genderqueer does not define someone's sexual orientation. I also got asked, how does a genderqueer person dress? Right? To me, this is the question of, what is the sex expression of someone who identifies as genderqueer? Well, the answer is a genderqueer person dresses however they want to, right? They dress whatever's comfortable for them, however they like, what's appropriate to the situation. There's no set expression, right? There's no dress code, there's no secret handshake. Someone who is genderqueer is allowed to dress however they want. And finally, and the most interesting and difficult question is, how do I know if I'm genderqueer or not? I got asked this one and my heart just melted a little bit, right? Because it's a person who's trying to anticipate, trying to find out what their gender identity is. And to be blunt, it's a long road to figure it out. When we talk about personal identity, there's no easy way to find the answer to the question. It's about reading, it's about thinking about it, it's about allowing yourself to have your emotions, it's about having a way to talk to other people about it and sort of process what's going on inside you. If after time and after exploration you come to the idea that yes, indeed, you are genderqueer, that you want to take on that identity for yourself, then that's great. If you look at it, you go, nope, that's not for me, well, then that's okay too. Everybody gets to define their own personal gender identity. Nobody else gets to define it for them. You've been watching Ask SAR. I'm Sar Surmic. Like this episode, share it around with as many people as you can. Conversation about genderqueer is a great one to have, and one which I think is important for more people to talk about. If you have any questions about anything we said in this episode, or any other questions about genderqueer, or any other questions at all, you can leave them in the comments, email them to me directly, or talk to me in person if you see me. We do this every week. Keep the questions coming, and we'll keep on answering them.